Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on this whole AI revolution. We're going to reveal the one technology, the one process, and yeah, the one company that the entire industry is built on. And trust me, it's not who you think.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a question. When you think about the giants of AI, who comes to mind? NVIDIA, right? Google, Microsoft? Those are the obvious ones. But what if I told you they all rely on a single, much quieter company that basically holds the keys to the entire kingdom?
You see, the magic of AI isn't just in the software. It's literally forged in silicon. Every single advanced chip out there, I'm talking the NVIDIA H100s, the Apple M3s, all of them, is made possible by this one impossibly precise manufacturing step. Without it, the AI boom just doesn't happen. Period.
At the very heart of it all is what I like to call AI's unseen engine. We're talking about a process called lithography.
So, what on earth is lithography? Well, to put it simply, it's how we print the tiny, incredibly complex circuits onto silicon wafers. I want you to imagine a kind of photography, but instead of making a picture, you're creating billions, literally billions, of microscopic transistors that act as the brain of a computer chip. It is the absolute foundation of all modern electronics.
But to build the kinds of chips that power today's AI, you have to push this process to the absolute edge of physics. And that requires a machine of almost unbelievable complexity.
Okay, so here's the fundamental challenge. The smaller the transistor you want to make, the smaller the wavelength of light you need to print it. It's that simple. For the tiny 5-nanometer, 3-nanometer chips in all our latest gadgets, you need a very special type of light called extreme ultraviolet, or EUV. And here's the kicker. EUV light doesn't exist naturally here on Earth. You actually have to create it from scratch.
And the process for making this light, it's just mind-bending. A Dutch company called ASML figured it out. Get this. They fire a super high-powered laser at a tiny drop of molten tin, a drop smaller than a human hair, blasting it into a plasma that, for a split second, emits EUV light. And they do this 50,000 times every single second, all inside a perfect vacuum. It's honestly one of the most insane engineering feats in human history.
So what does that kind of complexity cost? Well, a single one of these EUV machines from ASML will set you back over $150 million. To put that in perspective, that's more than a brand new Boeing 737. And here's the thing, if you want to make the world's most advanced AI chips, you have no other choice. You have to buy one.
This incredible technological barrier has created one of the most powerful monopolies in the world, and has set the stage for a huge battle, one that's being fought completely in the shadows of the tech industry.
You know, it wasn't always this way. If we rewind the clock to the 1990s, the lithography market was totally dominated by two Japanese giants, Nikon and Canon. I mean, together, they had about 75% of the entire market. Back then, ASML was just a tiny, scrappy upstart.
And now, fast forward to today, and the whole picture has completely flipped on its head. By making these huge, frankly terrifyingly risky bets on the next big thing, first immersion lithography and then EUV, bets that its competitors just weren't willing to make, ASML didn't just win, it completely conquered the market. Today, they control over 80% of it and are the world's only supplier of EUV machines.
So this is the battlefield today. You got ASML as the absolute, undisputed king. Then you have Nikon, the former leader, now kind of struggling to find its place again. And then there's Canon, who's still a big player in older tech, but they've been secretly working on a radical new weapon to challenge the throne. So how in the world are these challengers fighting back? Well, Canon's plan is so fascinating because it doesn't try to beat ASML at its own game. It tries to change the rules of the game entirely. Instead of trying to build a better, even more complex light projector, Canon is going a completely different route with something called nano-imprint lithography, or NIL. Okay, think of it this way. ASML's EUV machine is like an incredibly precise, expensive projector. Canon's NIL is more like an atomic-scale rubber stamp. It literally presses a pattern onto the silicon, and the potential advantages here are just stunning. It could be 10 times cheaper and use only a tenth of the power.
Now, even Canon's own CEO isn't out there claiming this is going to kill EUV overnight. Instead, he sees it as a disruptive technology, one that can open up advanced chip making to totally new markets. Think memory chips, or companies that just can't stomach a $150 million price tag. It's a classic case of trying to disrupt from the bottom up.
And what about Nikon? What's their play? Well, their strategy is a little more conventional. They're focusing on the technology that's just a step below EUV. It's called DUV. And they're aiming to launch a new, more competitive machine by 2027. Their goal isn't really to dethrone ASML, but to become a solid number 2 option for chip makers and just start chipping away at ASML's market share from the edges.
So this battle, being fought in nanometers, it has massive implications for the future, for technology, for geopolitics, and yeah, for anyone watching the markets.
But the king is not just sitting on its throne, believe me. ASML is already rolling out its next generation of machines called High-NA EUV. These things are absolute behemoths. They're going to cost up to $400 million a piece, and they'll be able to create 2-nanometer chips and even smaller. This move basically secures ASML's monopoly for at least another decade.
From an investment perspective, this whole situation sets up 3 totally different stories. You have ASML, the expensive but totally dominant monopoly. You have Canon, the stable industrial giant with a really interesting high-reward bet on its new technology. And then you have Nikon, the classic turnaround story, hoping to reclaim some of its past glory.
And what's fueling this whole arms race? Just unstoppable demand. The global semiconductor market is on track to hit a staggering $1 trillion by 2030. That's almost doubling in less than a decade. And the main engine driving all that growth? You guessed it, the insatiable demand for more and more powerful AI.
Which brings us to the ultimate stakes here. The future isn't just being coded, it is being physically etched, atom by atom, onto silicon wafers. Right now, one company holds the pen that's writing Moore's Law. But as these challengers find new ways to print the future, the real question is, will that monopoly last forever? Or is the next chapter in this incredible story about to be stamped in a whole new way?